Hey everyone, in this video what I'm going to do is compare Amazon and Etsy stock and answer which one is the better buy, Amazon stock or Etsy stock, now that each of these two companies have reported their first quarter earnings results. I'm going to update this comparison. I'm going to look at both the good and bad with Amazon's earnings results and Etsy's earnings results, and then compare that with their stock price valuation, and then answer which one is the better stock to buy. So let's begin. Starting with, I wanted to show you Amazon's earnings highlights and what happened with Amazon's most recent quarter. So the good news was that revenue increased by 9%. Operating income increased to 4.8 billion up from 3.7 billion, and operating cash flow increased by 38% to 54 billion. The bad news was that cloud revenue decreased, right? AWS income was 5.1 billion. That was compared to 6.5 billion in the same quarter the prior year. So that's where Amazon is facing the biggest headwind, is that its most profitable segment, AWS, is experiencing decelerating revenue growth and decelerating profit margins. So that's the headwind for Amazon stock. For Etsy, revenue increased by 11% in its most recent quarter. Earnings per share decreased to 53 cents, down from 60 cents in the same quarter the prior year. The good news was that the company was able to increase its transaction take rate again up to 21%. That was up from 18% in the first quarter last year. Etsy has some of the highest industry transaction take rate, right? This means that the inventory that is sold on Etsy's platform, Etsy doesn't own any of that inventory. Etsy just operates the platform and then takes a piece, right, the transaction take rate, for itself from every transaction. And at 21%, it's one of the highest in the industry, although everyone in the industry seems to be raising their transaction take rate. So the competitive pressure industry wide is easing. So, if you compare Etsy with, say, an eBay, eBay's transaction take rate is around 13%. So Etsy is way above eBay, although eBay has been moving its transaction take rate aggressively higher as well. Impressively, that hasn't impacted its active buyers, which increased by 1% year over year to 89.9 million. So it's got a lucrative base of buyers. The bad news for Etsy is that it's expecting a slowdown in the second quarter. Revenue of 615 million at the midpoint would be less than the 641 million in the first quarter, although that would still be growth year over year, and the company does expect to grow its revenue year over year for several years. The headwind for Etsy is that it's a prime pandemic beneficiary, and now that economies are reopening, it's catching less of a tailwind from people staying at home and shopping online. But over the long run, Etsy will continue to benefit as more people will shop online compared to shopping in person. Etsy will catch a bigger benefit from that compared to Amazon, because that's a bigger part of Etsy's business compared to Amazon's business, which primarily captures valuation from its AWS segment. So for that reason, online shopping growing as a percentage of overall sales will be a bigger tailwind for Etsy stock compared to Amazon stock. And if so, I just looked at both Etsy and Amazon shorter term, right? What's going on with them right now, their tailwinds, their headwinds. Longer term, if you were to look at Amazon and Etsy and compare them with their operating profit margin over the last, let's say, 10 years, going back to 2013, 14, you would see that Etsy has done an incredible job boosting its operating profit margins. It has a big lead over Amazon. Look at that, 14.47% compared to just 2.54% for Amazon. The big difference maker here is in the business model. What I mentioned earlier, why Etsy does not own any of the inventory on the platform. It also does not deal with shipping and handling. It leaves that to buyers and sellers. And so that leaves it a very lucrative source of revenue. It just takes money off of each transaction that's going on the platform. That's a lucrative source of revenue, and you see evidence of that in its operating profit margin. Compare that with Amazon, which tries to do everything in terms of having inventory that it does own on the platform, dealing with shipping and handling and fulfillment and storage and all of that for its merchants, and everything that goes along with that, and that's led to very thin operating profit margins of 2.54%, which I'm not very much attracted to. Finally, if we look at the valuation, judging by the forward price to earnings ratio, Amazon is more than twice as expensive as at Etsy compared to Etsy, trading at a forward PE of 42 compared to a forward PE of 19 for Etsy. So given all of that and given everything I know about these two companies that I've been following for over 4 years now, if I had to choose between one of these two stocks to buy right now, I'm picking Etsy as my favorite stock between these two. And also, I would add that Etsy is one of my top stocks to buy right now. It's one of my top 17 stocks to buy right now. All right, so that's all I've got for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll link that video of my top 17 stocks to buy right now in case you wanted to see that full list. Thank you so much. I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now.